All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders already getting into the offseason program. We've heard a lot about stuff on defense. We've heard about key players on defense, but the offense, there's been some special parts of that too. And one guy in particular, the further we go through this offseason, the more we hear about him and the more special he gets. I think this was an absolute great get for the Raiders. We'll get into that in just a second here. But first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, one guy in particular looking really solid for the Raiders. We already talked about him a little bit earlier this offseason, just talking about him and how he compared to other players in the draft. But now we're getting play on the field. We're seeing, OTAs, we're seeing mini camps, we're seeing practice. And what is this guy doing against NFL players and NFL level? And again, already impressing a lot of people very early on. Let's get into the articles. We talk more about it on the other side. This first part is from SI.com. It says Dante Thornton has seen a lot of reps at outside receiver opposite Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers. Team reporter Levi Edwards wrote, he was a constant target for Geno Smith. I think that's pretty good. Throughout practice, reeling in highly contested catch in the end zone during the red zone period. So, good start there. Second part, again, Athlon Sports is where this one is from. It says, perfect placement for Geno Smith, finding Dante Thornton on a touchdown with two defensive backs draped over him. Raiders.com Levi wrote, this offseason, Thornton has been one of, if not the most impressive rookies for the Raiders. Again, very high players for Thornton. What are we hearing now? Contested catches out the wazoo for Thornton. The other thing we heard about him is how quick he was. He has a lot of explosive playmaking ability as well. And how does that line up? How does that fit into this Raiders offense? Well, I think it fits in pretty well. If you look at who they have already, we can't necessarily compare apples to oranges, comparing Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker like last year versus Thornton, because that's college and NFL. But let's look at where Jacoby Myers and Tucker came into the league out of college and how they stack up against Thornton as he came out of Tennessee. We have a chart here just showing the Raiders wide receivers versus Thornton. First up, in blue, you got your contested catch percentage, one thing everybody's been talking about Thornton for. And in orange, you have their yards per catch, or a metric I really like for explosiveness. What are they getting per catch? How explosive are you? How many yards are you getting per catch? Is there just a lot of volume in your yardage? Or are you getting a lot every time you touch the ball? I think first up, look at Jacoby Myers. Great at contested catch out of college, 71.3% contested catch percentage there. Trey Tucker, not so great, 36.4%. But you look at Dante Thornton, 75% contested catch. So Jacoby Myers, as good as he is, Thornton, a little bit better coming out of college when you talk about his contested catch ability, and it's already translating. We're already seeing that in practices. We're already hearing about it multiple times, multiple different occasions. This guy can have two DBs draped on him, is still making the play. Secondly, let's look at their yards per catch overall through the season. In 2018, the last college season for Jacoby Myers, at 11.4 yards per catch. Not bad, so to speak. Look at Trey Tucker in 2022, his last college season, he had 12.8 yards per catch. Again, not bad. That's pretty decent, I would say. We look at Dante Thornton, though. He's 25.5 yards per catch. That's double these guys. Oh, and he was the leading receiver at Tennessee as far as targets, things like that. This guy has something special going on there. It's not that this is a guy that caught like one catch for 25.5 yards and boom, that's where he's at. No, this guy had a lot of volume at Tennessee. I think he had over almost 30 catches there. This guy was very, very productive and he has a lot going on here. Really looking like a strong get for the Raiders, especially when you compare Jacoby Myers. He panned out well. He's doing really well for the Raiders team. Dante Thornton in the fourth round, already coming out of college, a little bit further along, a little bit better stats compared to Jacoby Myers, and already doing good in OTAs. I think this is a great sign for this team. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Raiders fans, Raiders Nation, in the comment section below, let us know. We're talking receivers. We're talking Las Vegas Raiders. I know there's been, a couple bumps along the road as far as drafting receivers, but there's also been some absolutely phenomenal ones as well. So let us know, who's your favorite Raiders receiver in history out through all the years. Who's your guy? The Raiders, a storied franchise. There's a lot of different options baked in there, so there's going to be some great answers in the comment section below. But let us know maybe who your favorite receiver is and why as well in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of Las Vegas?
So, like you mentioned before, we talked about Thornton earlier this offseason in terms of how he was impressing the veterans. Like Max Crosby famously came out and said, "This kid is going to be special. He's off to a phenomenal start." We said, "Hey, that's a great sign." But what we talk about all the time on this channel is you watch how these guys start, and usually it's a good sign that it continues throughout the offseason, right? Good players are usually good throughout the entire offseason, whether it's rookie minicamp, OTAs, training camp, preseason, regular season. Good players just tend to be good. And that's what we're seeing from Thornton specifically. He was good during rookie minicamps, good during the early part of OTAs, impressed all the people, was making plays. Now that we're in the thick of mandatory minicamps, he is just dominating. He is a big play machine. He has the ability to beat any one of these Raiders defensive backs, and is doing it. He's building the rapport with Geno Smith. He's getting a lot of reps with the first and second string offense across the board. He will be a big player for the Las Vegas Raiders. And look, as Chip Kelly mentioned after the draft, this is a special physical beast, right? He's 6'5" and runs a 4.3 40. There's not a lot of human beings, to quote Chip Kelly there, that can do that. That's a special playmaker, like you mentioned, 25 yards per reception. That's absolutely bonkers to think about. I think Thornton getting off to a good start and continuing that trend is an absolutely outstanding sign. I remember the early reports, really dating going back to the 2003 regular season before it. There was a little known wide receiver named Anquan Bolden with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals were not a good football team, and he was making a lot of noise early in rookie mini camps, OTAs, training camp, preseason, and most people dismissed it. Like, it's the, whatever. We'll see when the Pats come on. And people were like, no, this kid's a beast. And then that carried into the regular season. He had a monster first game, 200 yards receiving, and obviously had an outstanding career. I'm not saying Thornton's going to be the next Anquan Bolden. Obviously, stylistically, he's much different, and we'll have to see how it actually all shakes out. But so far, we're seeing very similar, at least in my opinion, trajectory from this young Raiders receiver. He is doing everything great from day one after he was drafted all the way up to the mandatory minicamp. He was billed as a big physical specimen that could win those contested catches with great speed, and that's exactly what he's doing. It sounds so obvious and cliche, but when you draft players and evaluate players, you usually have a role in mind, right? You have a pass rusher, defensive end, you've got a run stuffing nose guard, whatever it may be. You expect when you draft and bring them in for them to fill that role. There's nothing that more of a red flag to me when a team that say drafts a run stuffing nose guard and they say, well, we're going to put him at three technique outside shoulder of the guard and have him work on some pass rush. And I'm like, yikes, that must mean he looked really bad in terms of being a run stopper, and that's what you drafted him for. Thornton, the exact opposite, brought in as a big play receiver, winning those 50-50 balls, down the field guy, some yards after catch when the opportunities are there. And that's exactly what he's doing for the Raiders day one and hasn't stopped. This is going to be one of the steals of the draft. I think we're going to look back of all the decisions made over the course of the NFL draft, day one, day two, day three. There's going to be a lot of good picks. But when we get deeper into the regular season and we're seeing rookies do great things, people are going to look at Deontay Thornton and say, I don't know how this kid fell as far as he did. He is a special playmaker for the Raiders, and Raider Nation, you got to be excited. You've got, I think, the best big play Raider wide receiver the Raiders have had in a very, very long time.
Yeah, Nick, and I think one thing we're seeing already is just how impressive this kid is. And you look at early depth charts, you look at early lineups. I know it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but the implication is there. This guy's already getting slotted in. This is a fourth round pick. This is pick 108 overall. How many times do you see a fourth round pick already getting slotted as a starter, the third wide receiver in a lineup against two guys who've been around the block, quite frankly? Trey Tucker, I don't necessarily think he had a great season last year. I think he's okay. And Jacoby Myers, definitely very good. I think he's very talented. But last year, the Raiders, they need a strong, explosive playmaker. Last year, they had to rely on Brock Bowers quite a lot. He was their leading receiver as far as the amount of receptions that he got. He was very talented. You think he did a lot, but I think people, they're going to key in on him now. People, they know who Brock Bowers is. Everyone in the league knows who Brock Bowers is. They know what he brings to the table. He's like the third highest rated tight end in all of the league per PFF. So they know they're going to watch out for him now. double covering Brock Bowers is going to be a priority. You can't be stagnant. You can't just say, all right, well, let's keep what we got and maybe Brock Bowers will figure it out. When you get a guy like Thornton into this lineup, you draft him, he has that potential too. I think that frees up Thornton. I think Bowers, he's going to be a target. People are going to lock him down, but now you got Thornton on the outside. You got Myers still. You got Trey Tucker. This wide receiver group, I expect them to get opened up a lot. Everyone keyed in on these receivers last year. They thought maybe Jacoby Myers is the only target this team has. Well, turns out tight end really exploded on the scene. People thought he would. He did just exactly what people thought. Now they're going to key on him. I think there's a big opportunity for wide receivers on this team to have a huge role. We're already seeing Geno Smith target Thornton a lot already, making some impressive plays. I would expect to see Thornton get involved early and often in this Raiders offense because that is the way things are setting up this offseason.
Yeah, and just to finish up on the point you just made, right? None of this happens in a vacuum. This game's going to be all about personnel matchups when we actually get into real football in the regular season. And let's look at the Raiders, right? Brock Bowers is a great receiving tight end. You cover him with a linebacker, you're screwed. You're going to lose. That's not going to happen. So the question you have, well, we're going to cover him with the safety. If you cover him with the safety, that means you only have one other safety. He's going to be a middle of the field safety. That opens up Thornton one-on-one vertical down the field. That's how the Raiders can kill you. And say, okay, all right, fine. We'll keep those two deep safeties, and but that means we can't cover Bowers with a linebacker, so we'll have a corner to cover Brock Bowers. We'll be a lighter, smaller football team. Then you pound the rock to Ashton Gene T for 2,000 yards, right? This is exactly the formula to success. It's as old as football itself, right? These matchups, these personnel situations, if you go small, we'll run you to death. If you try and bring a safety in the box, we'll beat you outside over the top. If you try and get a slower guy on our tight end, he'll beat you. This is football. This is personnel. This is what the Raiders have done. This is very simple stuff. This isn't earth-shattering rocket science, but the Raiders have done a great job executing on the strategy. We'll have to see how it shakes out when we actually get into real football, but it's very clear the Raiders, at least on paper and what we're seeing on practice, is proving that it's going to be pretty darn close to a reality, are going to be a completely different squad offensively in 2025 than what we've seen in years past.